Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sales Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Daniel McComber, and with me today is Ross McGarvey, the International Scotsman serial entrepreneur, is what I'm calling you today.
You know, I've been called worse, so we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Right? Thanks for coming on, man.
Glad to be here, man.
So obviously, we got to know each other over the past few months through our coaching group that we're both a part of. And it's crazy. I think back to the first conversation that we had. It was a very deep conversation that just came out of nowhere. And
Jimmy has a habit of creating those spaces, right? You're like, I don't even know this guy.
Yeah, I think I mentioned something about like my father. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're off to the races. And me, you, and Brian were sitting on the couches and just having a great chat. And but it's so funny because literally until about 20 minutes ago, I had no idea what you did for work or how you made money or what. I mean, I knew very little things, and I knew you're an entrepreneur, and I knew that you kind of create your own path, and that was why I wanted to have you on.
Yeah, and but maybe that's a good and bad thing. It means I'm not talking about myself all the time.
Yeah, that's true. But hey, we did talk about how you it's good to talk about yourself sometimes.
It is,
right?
No, it is, and it is one of my. I'll be honest, it's like one of my downfalls, right? It's like, I'd rather find out about other people and what they're doing. And,
But it's kind of one of those things. I feel like Ed Milet talked about this one of his speeches. He went to dinner with somebody and asked the person 1,000 questions about themselves. And when they were done, the person was like, that Ed Milet guy is amazing. He's awesome. That was me with you. Okay. I'm like, Ross is awesome. I'm like, wait a second. I don't know crap about Ross. I think that happens a lot with people around you. So
I think we've only been in for a year now?
Yeah, it's been about a year, dude. Yeah.
So, but the thing is, you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
If you were to ask most people, like, what does Ross do? They'd be like, I've never really thought about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with it.
We're going to dive into it.
Oh, boy.
You offered to be on the Sales Entrepreneur Podcast, and we do focus mainly on the business side of things, so you don't need to get too personal and whatnot. But the funny thing is that I'm going to be hearing a lot of this for the first time with everyone who's listening today. So I guess it's not like we're going to start from the beginning kind of a thing. One of the first questions I do like to ask is, when you were younger, did you have any kind of like entrepreneur example? Was it your father, a relative, a friend, someone that kind of helped you get from when you were young a good kind of idea into what's possible?
I love that question because the succinct answer is no, not directly, because my parents were both teachers. Oh. So there was nobody in the household. I don't have any aunts and uncles. But my grandparents on my mother's side, when I was very, very young, had a second-hand bookshop.
Oh, okay.
And they also, so there's a market in Glasgow, it's called the Barras, right?
The what?
Barras, Barras.
Okay, yeah.
It's slang for barrows,
where
people would show up at hand carts and sell their wares at a market at the weekend.
Okay,
and
cool.
So my mum grew up doing that with her parents. And I would say that both my grandparents were kind of wheeler dealers. I never knew that side of them. So whilst there was not necessarily a visible or visual example, there's something in the DNA.
Yeah, there you go.
So so whilst not having an example about a role model to follow in that respect, I do remember being like 8 years old. Certain things just made sense to me. We should trade. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, barter, trade.
And I used to go to the video shop, right? So it's kind of like the mum and pop Blockbuster. And they had those giant window cardboard promo signs.
Yeah, for the movies,
kind of like somewhat 3D, but not really.
Yeah.
What I would do is I would get the ones that were thrown out, bring them home, and trade them with friends for the things that my parents couldn't afford, because my mum didn't work growing up. So it was just my dad. He was the gym teacher when I was young. So not a lot of dollars floating about, but my friends had cool stuff, and so I'd be like, look at this. And the most vivid memory I have of it was a Steven Seagal Hard to Kill pop-up. Thing's probably like 3 feet tall, a couple of feet wide.
Yeah.
And my buddy was over and he's like, that's so cool. I was like, I'll trade you. And he's like, okay. And he had this little electric car not an RC car. You just switched it on and off and it went.
Yeah.
And I traded this giant thing that I'd basically salvaged from the dumpster for an electric car and a little green robot keyring container. It's like, I'll never forget these two little things.
Yeah.
And I helped him carry it to his house.
That's awesome.
And his mum called and was like, what is this?
Steven Seagal, you know what?
It's like, hard to kill, baby, obviously. Things like that, I was just hardwired.
Yeah. That is awesome.
So that's like my earliest memory of, I think technically that falls into the entrepreneurship category.
Yeah. So that was you're from Glasgow, you said?
Yeah, just outside of Glasgow. So
Glasgow.
I grew up about 12 miles outside of Glasgow, just south of it, and then moved into Glasgow, and that's where I was living before I moved here.
That's awesome. So you kind of had that spirit about you when you were younger, and then I'm guessing, just to kind of bring us up to speed a little bit. So did you go to school in Scotland or in America?
In Scotland.
In Scotland.
Yeah, I went to the University of Glasgow,
Nice.
and it kind of looks like Hogwarts.
Does it really?
It really does.
I'll have to look it up. That's
it
awesome.
Genuinely looks like Hogwarts.
Yeah.
And so it's funny when Americans are like, it's amazing. I'm like, it's just where I went to school.
I spent 4 years of my life. It's
right.
Yeah.
So I studied languages and did an entrepreneurship class when I was there.
Oh, cool.
And
that probably wasn't a super common class, I wouldn't imagine.
I think it was because people assumed it was an easy class.
Oh, okay.
But I was also self-employed by that point.
Oh, you were?
So I'll give you so went and served an LDS mission at 20, came back at 22, bought my first apartment 6 months after being home.
Oh.
It was like such a dumpy apartment. Was working in a clothing store, and about a month or two after I'd bought the apartment,
yeah,
they were downsizing, so I got laid off. I'm like, holy crap, I have a mortgage. Oh, stress. And so I became a bouncer, and technically when I was self-employed at that, because you could go in-house or third party.
Kind of like a independent contractor bouncer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd been a bouncer before my mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
For another time, we'll keep that one for
another time. And then I DJ'd as a teenager, and ended up getting a gig filling in for one of my friends DJing, and that kind of took off. And so I did the door for as long as I could because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then I basically became a full-time DJ at night when I was at college, and that's how I paid my way through college. So
wow,
self-employed DJ 5-6 nights a week. And doing an entrepreneurship class.
Yeah.
And so I submitted a business plan to open a bar. And I met with my employers, bar owners, club owners, promoters.
Yeah. It was the world you knew, right?
It was the world I knew.
Yeah.
And it was a group project, but I ended up doing all of it.
Yeah.
And as is the way, there's always some idiot that's like...
Well, someone that actually grasped the idea of the...
Well, I was interested in it because it was a world that I was familiar with.
Yeah.
And I turned it in. They're like, that doesn't work. And, the professor was kind of looked down his nose like it wasn't a great... I'm like, these numbers are all real. And I said, there's this many colleges, there's this many universities support Glasgow itself.
Wow.
Like your student population, I knew all the student population. I was like, so, this is a thing. And he tried to call me out in the middle of a lecture. 200 people.
Oh, really? And this is Ross's idea.
Well, it was like trying to make... I to this day, I don't know the point he was trying to make. Right? Other than, this is an easy target.
Yeah. And
he did it in front of 200 people, and I was not that shy in retiring. I was like, well, some of us talk about it and teach about it because we can't do it, and other people like me are out and self-employed making more money than you. That was not my finest hour.
No.
And he's like, but I was like, I am self-employed. Like
Yeah.
I own my own business.
Yeah.
Like
He didn't see a DJ as a business, I'm sure. It's just for him.
He didn't know I was a DJ.
Oh, okay.
But and I was probably being overly defensive about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna. I really struggle with those who can't speak and speak poorly of.
Ah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you're a pro, man, you can tell me how much I suck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like Brian Wrigley. Ross, if he used to be like, Ross, your business sucks and here's why, I'd be like, you know what, Brian, I'm going to take that under advisement. That feels like you've got a pedigree and a caliber where I should listen to that. And that he's one of 50 people that I would take that feedback from.
Yeah. Because when it's coming from somebody that's has the knowledge and experience, you can't accept it for anything other than constructive criticism. Like
because they've walked a mile, many miles in your shoes.
But they also wouldn't waste their breath on you if they didn't somewhat care about you.
Absolutely.
Like the wealthy people out there are never in the haters comments.
No, they are more often not the cheerleaders.
So if they kind of like tear you down a little bit, it's because they care and they probably think that you can build yourself back up.
And I would put it into one of two categories. One is kind of that brotherly, big brother arm around the shoulder going, this might not be for you.
Yeah.
With love, right? I mean, how many guys they're so in love with the notion and idea of being an entrepreneur because it gives them all the flexibility in the world. Mm-hmm. You're like, no, being an entrepreneur is the lowest paying job you can have hourly.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the early years.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other group are, you've got this, you're just a bit off course. And what you don't recognize is all you see is you're 2 or 3 degrees off of your destination, and it's a small enough gap that it doesn't matter to you. But I know that in 3 years and in 5 years, you're going to be so far away from where you want to be, you're going to go, how did I get here? So let me tell you that to make sure you don't make maybe the mistakes that they've made. Yeah.
So there's a huge difference between those two things and things like your professor was telling you. And
yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so you kind of call them out. Did you stay in school? Did you finish school and everything? Okay, so it wasn't one of those where you drop the mic and then peace out forever.
No, me finishing school was also pretty tough because it's hard to see a purpose.
Right.
You're like, I'm not going to use this.
Mm-hmm. What was your technical degree in?
So I went to school to become a Portuguese professor. So I studied languages. I did Hispanic studies.
Okay.
And then I got to the end of... Well, because I'm not long off a mission. I went to night school because I didn't have the grades to get in for a year, and you trust your parents, right? And they're like, "Hey, this is a great thing. I love to teach." And
you got that from your parents.
Yeah. I really did, but I also love languages, and so I'm like, it seems like the perfect marriage. I'll never be rich, but that wasn't the goal back then. And then it got to the end of my second year, and they downsized all the Hispanic departments across the country. So they were laying people off.
Wow. Well,
and I was like, oh,
if this is the profession,
no jobs. They're like, you can be a teaching assistant. I was like, how much does a teaching assistant make? £17 an hour. I make $100,000 a year DJing. I think I'll stick with that.
Stick with the DJing. Yeah.
So, and it was just, it felt like a zero-sum game. I loved it, but I'll never use it. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too, because the DJing, I love how you called yourself an entrepreneur from that, because you have to promote yourself. And I think this was the second conversation we had. First, we had the super deep conversation. Then the second conversation we had is I told you how, a lot of my buddies growing up were DJs, and a lot of people don't know this about me actually, but my mom was a professional ballroom dancer, so I grew up dancing. I love to dance, and I love electronic music, so I love dancing. I love going to electronic places, and there's a couple places in Provo, man, they used to exist. And
I'm trying to age yourself here
a little bit. I'm like trying to remember any of the names. It was like EDP, Electric Dance Party, for example, out of the Velour. Over there. And like they just text out randomly once a month, like, hey, tomorrow or tonight. And whoever showed up. So I took that and I was like, I'm not going to be a DJ because I didn't like sitting in front of computers. But I just got my DJ buddies together.
You are aging yourself. I didn't like sit in front of computers. Wow.
That would be nice.
I carried bags of vinyl around, so I may be aging myself here, and then was excited to go straight CD, and then to laptop.
That's true. Let's preface that a little bit. Yeah. We're not talking DJ like Diplo or whatever when you're getting started. Yeah. But the idea, there was people who knew music, and there's people who had money that I knew that had the speakers and lights and everything, and I just coupled it all together. And the selfish reason was I just wanted to have amazing dance parties for myself. Yep. And then I invited all my friends. But the thing is that was one of my first like entrepreneurial things without realizing it. Yeah. I was just trying to throw dance parties. So that gave me a little bit of a glimpse into what it must have been like for you. I mean, having bags of vinyls, investing in that. And I'm sure you toured the country doing that, unless there was enough business in Glasgow.
No, so I played in Glasgow 5 nights a week. So
wow.
I think at one point I was DJing 6 nights a week, and that was a lot.
Yeah.
That was an awful lot. And it was on a Saturday night, I actually ended up DJing in my hometown where I grew up.
Cool.
A place I was so desperate to get away from. To 2,500 people.
Oh, wow.
So it was a big night. And then the rest of the nights, the other 4 or 5 nights a week I was in Glasgow. But I played up and down the country, played out in Asia, Hong Kong, Macau.
What was like the peak of your DJing career?
Probably when I went to Hong Kong. I didn't initially go there to DJ. Like random fact number 87.
Yeah.
I actually went out to Hong Kong for a month to study martial arts.
Oh, okay, cool.
Traditional kung fu.
Yeah.
And the expat community over there is phenomenal. I mean, it is really, really strong. Like if you're a Westerner, they're like, hey.
Right.
And so a friend of mine was like, oh, you should meet up with these other friends that live out there. He's one of the lead buyers for Abercrombie & Fitch. I'm like, in Hong Kong?
Yeah, what?
Okay. And she told him I was a DJ. And he's like, me too. He's like, do you want to play? I'm like, well, yes, but how?
Yeah.
And I ended up doing half a dozen gigs out there.
Dang, while you're out there.
Mm-hmm. So
crazy.
DJ'd a super cool little bar in Lan Kwai Fong, DJ'd at Dragon Eye, which I didn't realize at the time how big of a deal that was out there, the Key Club and a couple others. So, and he's like, I've only got vinyl. I'm like, that's fine. So it was all house music.
Dang. So you were martial arts by day, DJ by night. Did they have a nickname for you out there? Like, what the heck?
No, because everyone's pretty eclectic out there. I don't think you go to somewhere like Hong Kong and are able to remain vanilla. Oh, yeah. Not for long.
Yeah.
I love it out there. There's so much opportunity. Food's amazing. Nightlife's amazing. Culture's incredible. But yeah, and I wasn't even supposed to end up there. I was supposed to do the Trans-Siberian Railroad, and the person I was going with bailed on me, and I was like, cool, I'll just do this instead.
Oh my goodness. What was your DJ name?
DJ Sozy.
Sozy.
Yeah, so if you've ever seen them, again, aging myself, The Usual Suspects.
Okay. So
the whole thing throughout the movie, like Kevin Spacey's in it, one of the Baldwins is in it. They're like, who is Kaiser Sozy? Who is Kaiser Sozy?
Gotcha.
So
I was
Sozy. And I didn't tell him. It used to just be Ross M when I would do like student nights, so I had 2 names.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when it was like different gigs and different audiences,
well, we had to go down that rabbit hole because I remember vaguely that conversation we had that you're a DJ, and I forgot that part. So tying in the business part of this, you are a DJ. I'm sure you loved what you did. You loved being a DJ, right?
I mean, it was a blast.
So I guess, did it come to a point where you just felt like you could do more, or was it just something that you're like, no, this isn't fulfilling me anymore?
No, I moved.
Oh.
I moved here.
Oh, okay. Why did you move here? Let's hear that.
Oh, so my wife is from here. And so when we got engaged, we made the decision that I would come over here. And honestly, I joke, but I would say it's true. the only reason that we are together is because I was a DJ, not because she was a groupie. So she was living here and I was there.
Yeah.
We met online. And because of the time zone difference, I was coming home at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm 7 hours ahead.
Oh,
so it's only 7 to 9 o'clock for her.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is you're not ready to go to bed when you come in at 3 a.m. if you've been working.
Yeah.
Do you go straight to bed? But when you walk in, right?
No.
You come in, you have dinner.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to have some food. You're going to like unwind. And so I was up for a couple hours after work anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I would just call her.
Nice.
That's awesome. So we talked for hours, and we would talk until the sun came up for me.
Wow.
We never spoke for less than 4 hours a night. And
oh, wow.
But if I had a conventional job,
wouldn't have worked.
I wouldn't have been able to do it.
It's so hard. Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I told you that Natalia is from Slovakia, right? And so she was going to BYU, and I think I told you that when we first met, I was in Kentucky and she was in BYU, and yeah, after my job, we'd FaceTime, and it's funny how that works, right? Like, it's funny as well because at the point in our lives, it was the best thing that could have happened. Yeah. Because if we were physically in each other's presence, it I don't know.
You probably would have messed
it. Yeah, would have messed it up.
You do
I'm
different
sure.
things.
Yeah, and so the idea that we could FaceTime for hours every night without any kind of like physical problems per se was phenomenal. It was the best thing that we could have ever had.
You get to fall in love with the person, like, and I joked. I was like, in the 40 days that that we spoke before I came over, we probably spoke more in those 40 days than most people speak in 6 months.
Absolutely.
Right. Because there's no dinners, there's no makeouts, there's no movies. There's all the things that we do when we're spending time with someone we're dating. Yeah. And I felt like we got to know each other really, really well. And she's 2 years my senior. And
that's the best way to do it. Natalia's 2.5 years.
I'm just marrying up.
I just needed to mature a little bit. So
I keep her young. That's what I tell her. I was like, I'm just here to keep you young.
There you go.
So it was great. I mean, it didn't have any of the nonsense. Yeah. You're not trying to make someone else jealous, right? Or like, you're ignoring me, you're neglecting me. You're like, no, I'm not there.
What's crazy is the attention that you give the other person with that too. Like when you're in person, it's kind of easy. Well, we're in person, so my attention can be distracted every once in a while.
I can be here, but we're in the same room.
Exactly.
So we're spending time.
We're spending time together. Yeah.
Rather than like, no, we're talking. And we're laughing and we're paying attention and we're listening.
What's also super key to that too is that when you're not talking, the fact that you can be FaceTiming somebody and not talk and just look at each other. That was the moments that was always the most kind of outstanding to me. Yeah. Was I was like, sure, it's okay for me to be like quiet with her and we could just be in each other's quote unquote presence. I know I learned a lot during that time.
Yeah. And it keeps it really simple. I think society in all facets of life, whether it's your personal relationships or your professional ones, everybody thinks that if they can make it more complicated, it's more special. Yeah. And you're like, no, couldn't be further from it. Yeah. Couldn't be further from it.
Well, man, that's amazing. I didn't know that our stories were so similar like that.
I mean, when you go international, it's just a different ball game.
It is. So you moved to America for her, but you're actively making the choice to, I guess you could try to pursue a DJ career here per se, but you're kind of making the choice to leave it behind.
Yeah. I felt like I had some friends who were, quite a bit older than me, and I'm like, I don't want to be somebody's dad hanging out in a nightclub. Yeah. And when I met Christine, I was already somewhat in the process of like kind of starting to think about transitioning out of it. Yeah. I was actually setting up an English school, like English as a second language. Yeah. And so I'd worked through all the curriculum. I was looking at places to rent when we met, and I'm like, maybe don't sign a lease just yet. Just,
Well, that's kind of back to that cool thing is what you're going to be doing is pairing your entrepreneurial side and your teacher side.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So you're going to do that, met her, and you're like, that might sound like a better
let's
option.
put this on pause for a moment and just see where this goes. And so I'd already felt like, I mean, I'd done it for several years.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of filled my cup with it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I've DJed with massive DJs. I've DJed internationally. I've filled dance floors. I've met phenomenal people. But it was a moment in time, and sometimes we linger too long.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes we get stuck in a job or a place or a career where you're like, recognize it for what it was, embrace all the good, and then with that in mind, think about what's next.
Yeah. I can totally agree with that. That was the first company I ever started, was this. I came home from my mission and I had this unquenchable desire to start something. So I went back to what I knew, the whole dance.
Yep.
And so I was going to open a club or a bar or something, and I pursued it, and I turned it into this kind of like marketing tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone into this detail in other episodes, but ultimately it kind of came to the point where I was like, man, you know, like it was actually a little bit before I met my wife, but I was making bigger moves in other places.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, this is kind of run its course. For me to go where I want to go, I can't hold on to this.
You realize, and it's almost by accident, that it doesn't scale.
Yeah.
Because you don't scale.
Yeah.
Right? I can only DJ in one club at a time.
Yeah.
I'm at the vagaries of the market. What if there's a shift away from hip hop to something else, or it's a different type of dance music? And you know, it's you can age out or you can get left behind pretty quickly. Club wants to rebrand and have a fresh start, not that you did anything wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe you've got a residency there a couple of nights a week. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tough one. And I think that even just people in, let's say, aspiring entrepreneurs who are in full-time careers,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they miss their windows.
You think so?
I think that there's a mindset that I think can be learned. I think you can train yourself, but it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's others of us that things just make sense. Don't tell me what I can't do, because I'm not going to listen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I moved over here in 2009. The economy was in the toilet.
Crazy time
I didn't
to move.
know.
Oh, really?
Well, what was in my comparison?
Yeah.
Right? It's like I had nothing to compare it to in the US. It was just different.
Mm.
And so 2009, 2010, I set up my own business, going into business for myself. And people are like, why would you do that? I was like, why would I not?
Yeah, this is what I want to do. What were you doing, by the way?
Well, it was marketing. Like, literally,
marketing.
I wasn't even trying. I was problem solving.
Mm.
And they're like, so why don't you do this for a job? I'm like, I don't know. How do you know this? Because I couldn't afford to pay someone when I was living at home. So I just figured it out.
Yeah.
Right?
You had to market yourself. You had to help market the club, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, but I very often compare a dance floor is all marketing signals. Because what you're doing is when you first come on, you're warming people up and you're going, who's tapping their toes? Who's bobbing their head? Like you really start to pay attention to every single person in the room and the groups and you go, okay, so they're liking this. So I'm going to we'll play one or two more and we'll see where that goes.
You know, have you seen the movie We Are Your Friends with Zac Efron?
Yeah.
That scene where he's like talking about like how like beats per minute will affect somebody, like how they dance.
100%.
So you really picked up good on like body cues and what people liked and how
feedback.
they reacted.
It's like, how are people responding?
Immediate feedback.
Yeah, and it's like, because I'm only as good as the dance floor I can keep full.
Ah, nice.
Right?
Yeah.
But also my utility lies with giving, like, to the club owner in my ability to give people permission to go and spend money at the bar. Right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
I have to have a busy dance floor and I have to have a busy bar.
Oh, and managing those.
Right? And so what you do is it's not like a concert where you have a big crescendo and you peak and it's all over. It's just all these waves and you build people up and then you back off. You don't hit a cliff. You just back off. Yeah, it's a good song, but I know it's not like the floor filler.
Yeah.
And you see little groups walk off and they'll go to the bar and they'll get a drink and then.
But it's planned. It's premeditated.
Yeah, and then you give them like 2 songs, 3 songs, and then you start to build it back up again, because drunk people, like, when there comes a point where they're so dehydrated that they have to go home.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so if you get an empty club by 1:30 and it's open till 3, it's because you might have pushed people too hard, which means you pushed them out the door.
Yeah.
Right. They may have had one of the greatest nights of their life, but there's a lot of dollars that never get spent at the bar.
That's amazing. So you had that kind of intuition to make sure that, I guess, your business was seeing revenue, so to speak.
Which was just feedback.
Yeah.
Right. It's like there's a time where you're like, I have to watch and pay attention to the signals. Hey, I'm going to put this message out or this song out. How do people feel about it?
Yeah.
Right. And other times you've just got to be like, I know what's best for you. I'm going to push this and you'll thank me for it, even though it might be, oh no.
Yeah, I feel like you're pretty dang good at that based on our conversations. So you moved to America for your wife, but then ultimately, you had to figure out work. And did you get like a little side job while you're figuring out the marketing agency, or did you just go?
No, the agency wasn't a plan.
Okay.
It wasn't part of the plan at all. Yeah. So I ended up, when I first moved over, I didn't have my work permit yet.
Right.
So I could not work. So I ended up...
You couldn't get a JOB, right?
No right. JOB, and I'm still incapable of getting a JOB.
Oh, are you really?
Like nobody will hire me. Like I'm now officially unhireable.
Yeah.
That's not a green card thing. That's probably my personality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I ended up working for a landscaping company, cleaning out storm drains out by the airport in the dead of summer.
Wow.
It's like 90 plus degree heat, and I've got a rake, and I'm raking out algae from storm drains and putting in trash bags.
Jeez. From DJ to raking up crap.
Yeah. And
for
then
a girl.
And then I would go to, I'd help my buddy who was a contractor, and I would clean up his job site.
Wow. That's crazy.
So yeah, it was a humbling moment. And the reason I ended up marketing is my wife had an accreditation seminar she needed to be at down in Vegas, and so we went down with her bosses who owned the company, and as we're driving down, they start talking about SEO, and they weren't happy with the company and they didn't know what to ask, and I was like, oh, you should just ask them this or find out if they're doing that. I'm just like, I'm kissing up, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Right? This is my wife's bosses.
Oh, right.
I'm just the husband.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to try and provide a bit of value.
Right.
And they're like, oh. I said, yeah, because if you do this and do that, and, I'm just kind of walking them through. And I was like, make sure you ask for these things. And she's like, oh, that's great. And I literally don't think anything else of it. We go down to Vegas. I don't do much because she's at a seminar.
Yeah.
And it's really hot. And then the drive back, they bring it up again. Oh. And they're like, so what about this? I was like, oh, you should do that. They're like, how do you know all this stuff? I'm like, because I couldn't afford to pay a company, so I had to learn myself.
Yeah.
And they're like, so you wouldn't seem to know way more about this than like the company that we're paying.
Really?
Like, would you be, do you want to give us a bid for this?
Dang. They asked you for your business.
I was like, sure. No clue. Like, couldn't hazard a guess on how to price it.
Yeah.
Right. Never been a service provider, especially not in the space.
Yeah.
Didn't know how much they were paying, and I sweat bullets like trying to come up with that, and I was like, and I quoted them $640 a month, and they're like, wow, that's amazing. That's half of what we're paying this. And I'm just like, oh no.
They asked for you on the spot, and oh my goodness, that's so tough.
So I was like, oh crap. Mm-hmm. And I was so desperate for my wife's sake, right? Like, not to let her down.
Oh, that's right.
Right? I don't want
it's her bosses.
It's her bosses. No exaggeration, I was probably working for less than $3 an hour. Like the amount of time I put in to that one client. Mm-hmm. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity that they gave me. Yeah. I knew what I was talking about, right? That was, I just never done it for someone else. So
But you also took that kind of initiative, because you could have been just a passive husband that didn't put his 2 cents in. And, I guess her job was, I don't want to say on the line, but at the same time, like, if they didn't like you or you were saying things that sounded dumb to them, that could have negatively impacted her.
Yeah, and it really would. It was just, I want to help people.
Yeah.
And all I was trying to do is be helpful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I get it. Like, no, this is what you should ask them. This is why. And if they say this, then you should like ask this.
Yeah.
So there was no agenda other than, they were a startup at that point in time as well. And, I knew the value of $1. And if I could do a better job for them, which I felt like I could, then that'd be a good thing. So they kind of, again, I've never worked at a marketing agency.
Yeah.
Like I'm in an industry, I have no business doing this, never mind for as long as I have been doing it. So it was not the plan, but it was a very welcome plan because I enjoyed it. I really did. It made a ton of sense to me. And
well, it sounds like you had kind of this experience from reading people and filling people's needs and helping people. And so like kind of the marketing strategy just went with it. And so I know that from our conversation earlier, you worked there for a while and then you started, well, I guess you worked as a contractor for them and then you started getting more clients. Was that, or customers?
No, I didn't. I don't think I even had a formalized like concept of what I was. I just sent them an invoice and they paid me. So I was just immediately a service provider. And I needed to come up with a name. So I kind of ended up accidentally being an agency owner.
Yeah.
And my first employee was my younger sister in Scotland, and she would write articles for me.
Oh, okay.
For $5 an article.
Nice.
Because that's what I had.
Yeah.
And then I built a bunch of websites, but I'm not a designer. And so I ended up hiring a designer who's in the spare room of my house.
No way.
Yep. So this is all from home. And my wife was pregnant with her eldest. And she's like out to here. And she's like, it's time for you to leave the house. Like, I don't want to have this in my house anymore, because we were meetings at the dining room table, and so that kind of was the impetus to kind of push and do a little bit more, and I would say that the reason the agency grew is in those early days, I was not that I was an amazing salesperson. I was just willing to give more away for free in terms of knowledge and strategy than other people were. Because I'm the one doing the work. And what I learned through that is it's really safe. I can give you a whole roadmap on how to build a personal brand and how to build an online presence. And I don't need to worry, because 1 in 1,000 people will actually go and do it.
Gotcha. It's kind of, I tell people all the time, it's like, if you have this great idea that you're trying to pitch to something, like you're trying to like get feedback on, so many people are like really worried about, pitching their ideas and like someone stealing it. I'm like, no one's going to steal your idea.
People are inherently lazy. Let's just be honest. They're inherently lazy. Everyone talks about it, and very few people want to be about it.
Well, the funny thing is like, I don't want to tell my idea to an investor because they'll take it. It's like, the investor invests. There's a reason why he's not an entrepreneur. He's an investor.
Looks at how many pitches a year. Like there's some arrogance there to think you're the unicorn. Yeah.
And so I guess you kind of flipped that on its head a little bit. You said, well, I like to teach people, I like to help people, and I like to give education away. And so you did that. And I'm sure people were just gravitated towards that, and referrals and more business, because they said we're getting a lot. They feel like they're getting a lot more than they're giving.
Well, it was immediately personalized. My proposal would look very similar to most other people's, but the conversation was it wasn't a sales pitch. I mean, to the point where more often than not, I'm like, if we never talk again, I just hope I've left your business better than I found it, and I hope there's some stuff that you can use. I genuinely mean it. Like there's not you have to have an abundant mindset.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're doomed to catastrophe.
Yeah.
You can get it good for a while, right? But money is the great magnifier.
Mm.
Like if you're insecure and speaking poorly of someone when you're broke, you're just going to get a louder voice when you speak poorly of someone
Yeah.
when you've got money.
Yeah.
You know, it's I love the phrase, you do not get any taller by cutting the heads off others.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I think I see that a lot in society, and I see it a lot in entrepreneurs that they don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
An entrepreneur builds.
Yeah.
Right? An entrepreneur doesn't take.
Yep.
And you're either an entrepreneur or you're an opportunist. They're not the same.
Not the same.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can do that better than that person. Do you care about it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you love it? Does it keep you up at night? Does it wake you up early? Does it bring value and joy to your day?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't, you're an opportunist.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you can versus should, right?
Right.
I can do this better than that person.
Mm-hmm.
But should I do it, and does my justification and motivation align with where I'm trying to get to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy because going back to the theme of Ross doing very interesting things, very seemingly random, if that's your underlying, course and kind of like your North Star, your compass, then yes, the things that you might physically do be very
they appear very random, but that is the red thread is storytelling and value.
Right.
Like,
and so out of curiosity, I mean, you've had that digital marketing agency for a long time, and I know that you've helped lots of people with that, but you've also done a lot of side projects with that too, or outside of that, which is really cool too, because you said that you really enjoy the company that you started. Yep. And you took it to a point where you could kind of step away from it a little bit, I believe is what you said.
Yeah, it was running well, and we've actually kind of restructured a little bit in our service offering, because there's certain parts of the services we offer that I love. There are certain services where I'm like, just because I'm good at it doesn't mean to say we should be offering it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can do lots of things, but I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I would rather spend my time doing the things that I really enjoy, that I'm really good at, and grow my skill set in other arenas.
Yeah.
Not to jump from lily pad to lily pad and just kind of be random. There's definitely, I would say, I try and allocate 15-20% of my time for the weird projects.
Okay. Like what?
Like a medieval tavern in your warehouse. That feels like a kind of a weirder project.
Yeah.
Because life is short. And we get so... And it's not... And this is the gospel according to Ross, right?
Right.
I need those little passion projects because, again, I would say I'm really good at what I do. But that comes with a curse, because sometimes you don't always love what you're really good at because the challenge isn't there.
The challenge isn't there.
And when I started to feel that maybe the challenge wasn't there, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn my hand. I'm going to go and try new things. And so I took a consultant gig, which I'd never done before.
Okay.
Years ago. This is 2017, probably. Right around there. Had no idea what the deliverable was going to be. Understood the scope of work.
Okay.
But in terms of like
what you're going to actually give them.
Like what's the what's the thing?
Yeah.
Right? Like, because I feel like a PowerPoint's kind of lame. But it's what everyone does, and that's what I didn't realize.
Yeah.
And it shocked me that it was easier than I thought. Because other people's bars were really low. Because apparently I am a lot harsher on myself and the expectations of what my definition of solving a problem is versus someone else's.
Right.
And again, that's neither good nor bad. It was just a surprise. I'm used to solving every problem within a business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is, it's my problem.
It's your problem. Yeah. As the head of a company, as an entrepreneur, you wear 1,000 hats and
the buck stops with me.
Yeah. And so being a consultant, it was like, we have one kind of general problem we need help with, and you solve it, maybe like a part of it, but not all of it, or?
It was, I could just, and I do think this is why a lot of people who do marketing end up being consultants is because you touch so many different industries and so many different moving parts. There's very few industries I've not touched or worked in.
Wow. And
they're like, oh no, we need help like figuring this out. I'm like, no, you don't. It's not your problem.
Yeah.
An example, there was a group that I worked with in, 2018. They were based in Brooklyn. It was a friend and I were kind of tag teaming on it. She came from more of a finance background. And they're like, we're just missing projections, and it's this as a product company, and they were on track to do about $13 million, and the board had hired us because they're like, they'll be lucky if they do 9.
Oh,
it's quite a big miss.
Dang. Yeah.
And it's like every time you talk to them, they're just like, we're doing this and we're doing that, and like we're not getting a straight answer.
Oh.
And so it was a night and day engagement, and we started digging in, and the CEO, the reasons were just like off the wall. Oh, it's because our customers are like, our sales are down, and it's this, and it's because of that. And I'm like,
things were not.
It just like it just wasn't jiving.
Yeah.
And so we go through, like, I look at their P&L and their F1, and they're like on F5 by this point. Like, I'm like, okay.
Jeez, okay.
But the real issue was cross-department communication. There was none. So you have an e-com division, right, that's over the website and the general marketing of the website. Its biggest month was less than $70,000 for a consumer product. Biggest month ever was $70,000 because they were they were wholesale, and so REI was their customer.
Oh.
Right. Amazon was buying from them. Like all these outdoor shops were buying from them. And so they're like, $70,000, it's great. As I go through, I'm looking at their shipping and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we've got stuff on this side of the country, and we've got these things on that side of the country. I was like, right, I get that. What's this one? They're like, that's our e-com one. I'm like, just for your web sales? Yeah. $58,000 a month.
On web sales alone?
On warehousing fees and shipping costs.
Oh, it was costing them that much money.
It was costing them $58,000 a month.
That's crazy.
No one had thought to actually, like, the finance guy had lumped it into shipping and fulfillment, and it's just the cost of a warehouse.
Yeah. But
nobody had actually talked. I'm like, your biggest month's $70,000.
Yeah.
It costs you money to sell these things.
Yeah.
You've $12,000 on your, like,
you can't
left
operate
over
on
your best month.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include product cost.
Yeah.
And your product costs 40%.
Oh, they have nothing left over.
No.
They've got like $3,000-$4,000 left.
So they don't even have that those months because
then you have
they've 35. Costs, their net is like, call it $42,000.
Oh,
then they have minus 58 from that.
Yeah.
Right.
Jeez.
They had $250,000 a year upside down on a shipping and fulfillment, like a 3PL.
Wow. And they couldn't figure it out.
I was the first one to find it.
Jeez.
It'd been years.
Yeah.
But that was indicative of like 3 or 4 other because they're like, oh, we can't fire anyone. Everyone's essential. Everyone's essential. Everyone's essential. And then by finding out the truth about one number, they're like, we can fire 3 people. I'm like, correct.
Right. Once they see the truth behind it, then they realize.
And it's, I mean, bunch of smart people, but not asking the right questions. And so I think very often, and it's blindness by proximity. Sometimes we look at those numbers and we look at our org chart, or we look at our audience, and we just can't see it because we've stared at it 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And so more often than not, it's a perspective shift. And so, it was fun. I mean, I love consulting because the challenges are different.
Well, it's a different challenge every time, different companies, different people every time, which is that kind of mix up that you need, that you talked about, right?
Yeah, it allows me to hone the skills I already have in a different arena. Yeah.
And so then when you get requests, because you probably get requests quite often for help with businesses and stuff. I mean, you're a successful entrepreneur, you've consulted in other places. Yeah. So when you get you've accepted some kind of crazy requests, like joining the board of, I don't know if I can say it or not, but like the Evermore Park in Pleasant Grove as it was dying. Kind of, I should say, maybe being coerced into that situation.
Well, yeah, it was. See, I'd been on the board for a couple of years, but to take over the role as CEO, it was kind of a do or die moment for them. And the day I was asked, I said, how long do I have to think about it? And they're like, till the end of the day. Yeah. And this is at 3:00 on a Friday afternoon. Yeah. It's an awkward call with your wife. Yeah. Right? Like just in case anyone's wondering.
Hey, I'm going to be a CEO by the time you get home.
Of a theme park.
Of a theme, if you could call it that.
A failing theatrical theme park with no rides.
With no rides. Right. Well, kind of pulling from that example, I mean, you said yes, which is kind of crazy. How much, I feel like a lot of people will attach themselves to like the businesses they're a part of and stuff. So I'm guessing consulting helped you to be not attached to these businesses. Yeah. And so that's really good when you're giving advice and you're trying to help the most you can. I guess what lessons have you learned from consulting, being a part of failing projects and successful projects, helping them become more successful? Like, what kind of lessons have you learned that have helped you become a better entrepreneur?
Objectivity. Okay. Right. I think you have to push yourself to be objective about everything.
In the business.
Wow. Not because it strips away things that you might want to do, but because you know why you're doing it. Make it a choice, right? Hey, this is a passion project. Rather than being like, I've got to do it. Yeah, you come up with the 7 different reasons to justify why you're spending time. Wouldn't it be easier just to be like, I love this?
Yeah, call it what it is.
Right? Yeah. And I'm going to ride it till the wheels fall off, and I'm going to do the best that I can. But I'm going to set boundaries.
So with the boundaries idea, how, when you take on projects, because I'm guessing at one time you've probably had quite a few projects at once, and so how do you set boundaries for yourself on what you can take on at once?
Well, I say my rule is I'll only do up to 3 engagements a year on the consultant side of things.
Oh, okay.
So it's not, I've never done more. I've turned down a bunch over the years, and I will be honest, it has changed slightly. I'll probably only do 1 a year at this point.
Yeah. Because
here's my 40-something-year-old epiphany. Because I moved over here when I was 29.
Yeah.
So I hit the reset button at 29, almost 30.
Yeah, a little later.
And so I'm a little bit late to this party is I get fed up building everyone else's spaceship. And you put everything you have into someone else's business because this will work. If you do this will work. You can make, let's give it gas. Let's make it go.
Yeah.
And I forget and this is why I say objectivity is because I'm really enthusiastic, because when I get it, let's do it, and I will go the extra mile. And for a moment, I will forget I'm a service provider, whether that's through the agency or as a consultant.
Right. Yeah.
But they never forget I'm a service provider.
Yeah.
You know,
and they'll take all the service they can get.
they will take all the service they can get, and they'll be like, "Cool, see you, thanks."
Yeah.
And that's not a slight on them. They are honoring the contract.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Oh, okay. You know, and I think if you can pause and go, really, am I going to do a 5 a.m. phone call? Is that within my purview?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to do it, why am I doing it? Because they said jump, and I said how high? Is this an exception? Is it a rule? Is this exception creating a bad rule? Is this the first time? You know, because you can ask a series of questions which will like strengthen you. It will make you better at what you do, because you will have balance.
Right. Do you think balance is possible as an entrepreneur? It
depends, man.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's times and seasons.
Yeah. It's like there'll be balance, I guess, a projected or a calculated imbalance, which in essence is balance.
But balance is also different for everyone. Balance is not 50-50.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. We think of the seesaw and you're like, it must be in perfect harmony.
Right.
But balance for me is, can I find time when I choose to find time to do the things that I want? I don't want to go travel the world 6 months out of the year. I'll be bored.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's only so many views that I care about. When I go away, like with the family, we'll go to Hawaii for a week. I'm pumped and ready to roll at day 4.
Right. Yeah.
Because balance for me is, what does it take for me to fill my cup to be one of the best versions of myself I can be? Regardless of the arena. I have certain rules that matter to me. When I'm home, I want to be dad, but I don't come home I don't leave the office till 7:00.
Right.
So I'll maximize my time so that when I walk through the front door, I can be present for the boys. And
well, boundaries kind of brings balance in your life.
it does,
right?
But it's self-knowledge, right? Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing?
Yeah.
And I think what happens as well, that the longer you do this, your conversations with friends change because you ask really hard questions, and in return, they'll ask you the questions that you are avoiding asking yourself.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, you're doing a lot of this. How's your wife feel about that?
Yeah.
You know, and something we work. I'm like, dude, you're always working. What's happening with the kids? When was the last time you did this with them?
Yeah.
Like, those are the people in my life that will show up, right? Those are the relationships from other entrepreneurs. Like, all my friends are entrepreneurs for the most part. Because they're the bumper. They're kind of like the bumpers on the lane. And it just needs to be a question. You're like, damn it.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I feel like that's something that's also cultivated and learned too, because I know you're good at that, because that was like the first conversation. I made a comment and you asked this like I can't remember what the question was, but you asked a very intuitive thought-provoking
I asked you what
question.
the deal with your dad was.
Yeah,
And
but it was like the way you put it was like really good too. You're like, oh, what's up with you and your dad? It was like, well, and I can't remember specifically, but I was like, oh, dang, I guess I never thought about that before. So I guess, is this the talent that you've always had, or is this something that people can learn?
I think some people innately have it.
Yeah.
I think not everyone recognizes it. But I think you can learn it but it requires a level of confidence.
Yeah.
And going, I trust myself enough to ask the question in a way that won't offend.
Right. And that you'll give an answer and you'll give feedback that'll actually help the person.
And I worked with a coach years ago, and he gave me some like golden rules. And I probably asked you this because I do it a lot. Kind can I give you some feedback?
Yeah.
Asking that question to someone takes down a ton of barriers. You can give them, because you've asked permission.
Yeah.
And it's this weird subconscious thing where they're like, okay. And if somebody's falling short, like, or somebody's not doing something, not a conversation, it's not, why haven't you done it? It's like, hey, so what's preventing you from having that conversation?
So you've learned how to ask these questions and how to help people.
We focus a lot on NLP as sales guys.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole section that relates to management and leadership.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, and also to your spouse, right? And to your kids. And, you know, and what I take from all of that is like, Ross, just think more before you open your mouth.
Right.
Right. I feel like that's what NLP is. It's just like, if you ask better questions or said better things, you would get better responses.
Oh yeah. I
you know,
well, you even that actually just brought it up. Is you know that I have no problem of sharing my opinion, and that's one reason why I have a podcast. But you know, in our coaching group, I'd give my opinion often. And you teased me about that once, which I thought was so funny. And Jimmy called you out on it. He's like, Ross, way to make fun of the one guy that's like actually opening up to the group.
Yeah, no, it's good.
When your problem is not opening up to yourself. But the cool thing is that you've gotten so good at asking great questions and finding out things about people to the point where you can help them. And in turn, you've realized in yourself that, you know, you I guess sometimes it's hard to be the one that asks for help.
It is, and it's something I think I've struggled with like pretty consistently over the years. But not for the reasons that a lot of people are like, nobody would care. Like, what's the point in asking? You hear that a lot. You're like,
people think
they have a really... I don't have negative self-talk. And it's... That is something I was born with.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist. I believe the glass is always half full. But I'm pretty introspective about it, and I know that it doesn't help. It's like, I can acknowledge a shortcoming and a failing, but how do we resolve it? How do we not have this happen again?
Yeah.
But I think part of it's my upbringing. Like, where I was brought up, like, the man's man doesn't ask for help. He just gets it done. Yeah. Right. And I've worked with coaches to try and like soften that and to break it down. And I still choke on the words for sure.
But you also have this strong innate desire to help people. And I mean, you got to lean into what, you know, your gut tells you, like, hey, this person needs help.
I have helped my way out of many of my own problems.
Right.
Right. I've helped other people, because what it's done is it's given me a reframe or a perspective shift. Yeah. You know, and I saw this reel months ago. I probably have ADHD.
Probably, yeah.
Right.
I found out recently I do, so you probably do too.
Like, not diagnosed, but we're like, it would make sense. And this reel's like, hey, here's if you get ADHD, the one thing you can do is not stop. He's like, if you're in motion, don't stop. Yeah. Don't go sit down and pick up your phone. Just get on your feet and move. Because everybody thinks about it and they prepare for it and they've got all the things to do it, and then the day's over and they've not done it. You know, and I think that just that's been true for me, where it's come to, if I'm struggling with something or I'm having a hard time, I use the word help. I can help my way through it, or I can serve my way through it. Yeah. Because sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just need the clouds to part for a minute to see clearly and be like, got it.
Well, I tell people all the time, most problems you can't think your way through, in my opinion. Like, especially personal problems. You can't think your way through a personal problem. It's a problem because it's about you and you can't figure out the reason. But if you take action... You are a
terrible sounding board for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But if you take action, just even your surroundings changing, your environment changing, it gives a different perspective, especially talking with other people.
Tony Robbins, we went to his UPW event years and years ago, and one of his things was, change your state, make your move.
Huh.
Right? Which is, if you are stuck, if something's weighing on you, if you've got a problem and you're just feeling out of sorts, change your state, get up, walk, move, jump up and down. Who cares? But make that physiological state change.
Yeah.
Get the blood going, and then make your move. And he's always like, there's a power noise. It's like, and you see it in sports all the time. Somebody gets a touchdown, they're like, yeah, they're kind of hulking out, right?
Yeah.
But that reinforces the action, right? You train yourself and you imprint on yourself like how you want to feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's vital, because sitting on the couch is not going to make anything any better.
Right. Absolutely. And so I love how you said that you helped your way through a lot of different instances. That's amazing. Out of curiosity, through the consulting and through the side projects and having your own business, right? You have all these different kind of things that you're able to take on. What's kind of like the next, are you going to just continue with the consulting until consulting doesn't fulfill you anymore? Or have you kind of put that in its place where it's making money, for example, it's profitable, it's doing great. And are you like just kind of preparing for the next self venture or the next consulting job? Oh
man, you're asking all these questions. I don't know if I like the answers I'm going to have to give. Yeah. My days consulting are probably drawing to a close. Always ask, right? Because there's a higher likelihood of me consulting if I know you or you've got a cool business.
Yeah.
But it won't be for 90 days. It'll be 30 days, high impact, in and out. And it's just because I have other projects I'm working on, and it puts me a little bit at odds with my nature, because I want everyone to win. Like if I can make a difference to your company, man, I want to do that. Yeah, you can pay me for doing it, and your upside's way greater than mine.
Yeah.
But it ticks a box for me. And I think I use the term equitable trade. Right?
Yeah.
Was the knowledge and outcome worth the money that you paid me? Not was the dollar value of the outcome, because in every instance, the dollar value to my clients is exponentially more than what they paid me.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
But am I content? Am I feeling fulfilled with it? Because I know you are, because you're off to the races.
Yeah.
But I think it's time that I kind of took that and kind of maybe focused it a little bit more inwards.
Yeah.
Which is very, like I say, it's just very counterintuitive for me, because I don't like to be the center of my focus. And I think that I don't think that's a negative. I think it's because I know that I'm capable. It's like I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I know how. Like not everyone can do that, and so it's a lesson, right? And I think it's been really good, just with what we've been covering with what is it's helped galvanize some of that mindset. I mean, Jimmy beats that horse pretty often.
Yeah.
Like you have to put yourself first. Like it is totally okay for you to be like, I'm front and center right now.
Yeah.
Because it's a net gain for everyone who's around you.
Absolutely. Well, I was reading, I think it was a social scientist. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but he was talking about how everyone has this desire to feel like they accomplish something on their own. And I feel like that kind of also comes full circle to like, you feel like you want to solve your problems on your own. And I feel like a lot of times people don't realize that you can still get this sense of fulfillment of like overcoming a challenge or overcoming something personal with help.
Yep.
And that's something that I think.
Well, because it becomes teamwork, right? If you ever played team sports and won, you're not any less happy because you won on the team than you would if you were in a solo event.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it's hard to reconcile that, or even just to be able to distinguish that it's the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, even with your next project, I'm guessing this is the one that you're kind of most excited about. You just released it a couple of days ago that you're doing. a medieval tavern in your warehouse in Salt Lake.
Yeah, dude, it's an interesting time. Like, it wasn't the plan. The project I'm really like, the actual project is my AI startup.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard that one yet.
Well, you know, it's like I may have a text right now confirming our first major contract.
Oh, dang. Okay.
My partner's like, really, you're going on a podcast? I was like, I'm not even going to look at my, like, you know, these guys, they're like, they raw dog the flight now. They're like, no music, like, I'm just staying at the mat for 7 hours. I was like, this is my moment. I'm not even going to look at my phone on this podcast. Like, it'll be, you know, it'll either be there or it won't. And if it's not there right now, it will be there in the morning. Yeah. So we'll be fine. But,
I almost want to like look with you at your phone right now.
Dude, I can't break this in this public forum, right? But yes, there is a medieval tavern in my warehouse, which I am overly excited about. But that's not 15% passion bucket.
Yeah, it's a passion.
Right, it's a passion play. It's totally financially viable.
That's good. Yeah.
So it's not like
I'm not gonna lose money on it.
No, I mean I'll make money on it.
Yeah. You never want to lose money on anything, let alone even passion projects. They're not necessarily supposed to lose money, right?
No, but I mean, there's a pretty healthy business model attached to it. But it's just, I'm like, Ross, what are you doing?
You know the challenge ahead of you, huh?
Honestly, I mean, construction starts this week. I just met with some of the contractors before I came down here. Mm-hmm. And it's not that complicated. It's really not, because I have pretty much everything. It's just I'm uncomfortable because I'm like, this is really far away. Like, this is all the stuff I love.
Yeah.
But this is not like how I make my money.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
So,
well, how's the AI thing any different? I mean, unless you're really comfortable in AI.
I've worked in, I mean, so that's what I did when I worked for the public group. As a chief innovation officer, we were building our own AI recommendation platform.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're comfortable in that. You know how to make money off of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really. I built a ton of products over the years. I say, ironically, I own a marketing company, but I'm probably better at products.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because of this, and it's the strategy. Because we had a whole dev team, and we built apps and platforms. As part of the agency. Again, I love being able to explore like other places and other industries and through the agency, because I deep dive on it and I'm doing it for a client, and it's not selfish, it's just to make sure that everything goes well. So no, I mean, I've been involved in blockchain since 2013.
Nice.
And we did a whole NFT. We're working this public group. We're doing a whole NFT project. We're building an AI recommendation system, but that ran into struggles that were larger than me.
Ah, that makes sense. So hopefully this business comes through and you get this new contract, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we built the product. We've done the demos. It's just we've had a yes, but until the deal's signed, you're just like.
Yeah, you clenched.
Like, maybe. Don't change your mind. Have a good night's sleep. Yeah. Make sure you sign it. So
you have, man, it's so funny because with you, it's very hard. Like we said, we know what the red line is and we know what the underlying thing is, but it is very hard to tie comparisons to everything. So I guess if people wanted to, not necessarily connect with you, I should say. If people want to connect with you, and maybe because of your vast knowledge of the different businesses that you've worked with, hire you as a consultant or part-time or something like that, what's like the way that they can reach out to you?
Honestly, most of my stuff comes in on Instagram.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you would say something different. So
no, I mean, it's like I've got the website, I've got stuff, but like I think the last couple of deals have come in.
Wow.
Through Instagram.
No way.
Well, because it's like, hey, what do you do? Like, what about this? Or they'll ask a good question.
Yeah.
I'll kind of screen them a little bit.
Sure.
And then it kind of goes from there.
Awesome. So, well, I'm pumped to see the different things that you come up with. Before I know it, you'll have a completely different shoe company or whatever that
I don't. So let's clean this up. I don't have a shoe company. Like, so we have Kicks It Forwards, which is where we'll take donations, but we'll also, I mean, we're footing the bill for almost all of it.
Okay.
Right now is people get to nominate kids in their neighborhood who are working hard, who are just like they're getting good grades, they're showing up for the community, like they're helping the little old lady next door. You know, they're just trying to be good kids, and they can nominate them, and then we'll select 3 or 4, and we'll give them a pair of sneakers,
pair of shoes,
and
a desire to help.
But it's a lot of underprivileged kids, such great kids. They just work so hard. And there's a little girl, it was her first group that we gave to. She had 1 pair of sneakers and she'd had them for 2.5 years. And it was snowing and they were ripped.
And 2.5 years, there's no way they fit her.
And she's at West High whilst her sister's doing cheer. And I'm like, so why are you not? And reading between the lines, mum couldn't afford both of them to be in it. Single mum, 2 jobs.
Yeah. And
again, it's like it's weird, but like sneakers are a thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I can have the crappiest stuff on, but if I've got a cool pair of kicks that I love, you stand a little bit taller, right?
That's true.
It gives you a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
And so Lefty and Michael, who are in on this, they asked me to get involved because I've got a weird relationship with sneakers.
Okay.
Well, my parents couldn't afford them.
Oh, so you feel
so I didn't have a pair of Jordans till I was in my 30s because my parents couldn't afford it, and they became the forbidden fruit.
Right.
And so you're buying clearance, or you're buying...
Sure.
Like I got 1 pair of... They weren't even Sambas, but they were Adidas Kick 2 that were a size too big.
Yeah.
Every year for my birthday, and I had to make them last the next year.
Oh, wow.
And it rains a lot. Right? Don't kick a ball with that, Ross. Because we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
Single income gym teacher.
Yeah.
Right. And that was when I was young. Then my mum she went back to work, but just not enough for 3 kids.
No.
And
so you feel for these people.
I do. I've been the kid with the crappy shoes.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I've had fun poked at me, and I've been the unpopular kid, and it's not a lot, but it doesn't matter if it's Vans, Blazers, Dunks, Jordans. Like the look on these kids' faces, but more importantly, the looks on their parents' faces.
Wow.
It's so that's what it is. It's not a sneaker company.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. That I will say, kicksitforward.com. If you want to go like donate some kicks, do it there, because we're going to do a back to school drop for kids. And there's an abundance of need.
Yeah. Well, I love that, you've gotten to this point where you found not just one way to help companies, and I mean, if you help one company, you're helping possibly hundreds, if not thousands of employees. You've kind of positioned yourself to be in a place, Ross, where you can help just an endless amount of people, and that's amazing. And so it's
trying.
Yeah, you're trying. Yeah,
right.
I think you're succeeding pretty good. So yeah, give yourself a pat on the back a little bit every once in a while. But so happy that I could have you on and we could talk a little bit about the things that you're
hopefully
doing.
It wasn't too chaotic. I'm just like,
no, we had a good job there. Right? The funny thing is, I know from very small little things that you've mentioned that there's 1,000 more things that you've done that we could talk about. We just might have to have you on again.
Life's variety is the spice of life. But sometimes from the outside, people are like, I don't get him. And you're like, you will. It makes sense at some point.
Yeah. So, well, like I said, when you understand who Ross is and what motivates you, it makes a lot more sense. Yeah. So thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.